is becoming more and more Islamized. Turkey is legally a secular country that does not have an established religion. But of course, it's 99% Muslim, and the governing authorities are in favor of the institution of Islamic law there. And so they are working gradually to bring Islamic law to Turkey, and they are operating according to attitudes and assumptions that come from Islamic law. And so it shouldn't be any surprise to us that Christians are having a hard time there, because this is something that is part of the imperative of Islamic law. Christians have a legalized, institutionalized second-class status that ensures discrimination against them and denies them equality of rights with Muslims.
All right, Mr. Spencer, we going to another issue here, that the exterior minister of Norway, they oppose building mosques in Norway anymore, especially been funded by Saudi government and Saudi princes. And he said, we are not allow any mosques to be built on our land as long as that Saudi Arabia doesn't allow religious freedom in their land. Do you think that he's right, or do you think that Europe started to go forward against their occupation from Muslim country, or what's going on here?
Well, certainly, the Norwegian foreign minister, I think, has a very good point. Why should the West continue to offer religious freedom to Muslims when Muslim countries don't offer religious freedom to non-Muslims? And this is something that has been criticized in the United States by people saying, well, surely you're not saying you want the United States to become like Saudi Arabia. No, but we are saying we want Saudi Arabia to become like the United States. We want them to open up their society in the way that our society is open up to them. And that doesn't seem to be an unreasonable request on the part of the Norwegian foreign minister. That seems to be an entirely reasonable request from him.
We have another issue. It's a weird issue, scary issue. When the president of Iran went to visit Lebanon, and he went especially to southern Lebanon, which is the border of Israel. What do you think he means by this visit? Does he mean to scare Israel, or does he mean to establish a state, a Shia state inside a Lebanon state?
Well, he wants to do several things. The president of Iran wants to establish himself as the leader of the Islamic world, and primarily as the leader of the Jihad against Israel. He wants to establish the Shiites over the Sunnis. And so he is giving aid to Sunni groups like like Hamas, the Islamic resistance movement against Israel, to make them dependent upon Iran and the Shiites. And he is offering his support by going to the Israeli border to Hezbollah. At the same time, yes, he is trying to frighten Israel and to show them that pretty soon they will be facing another war. All these things and more, I'm sure he was doing when he went to the Israeli border.
We have three issues on at the end of our show. The first one, the president of Sarkozy, the president of France, when they established a new law for avoiding wearing veil inside France, some of his people told him that the Muslim people will be upset. He asked him, what do you think by Muslim people like Saudi Arabia? He asked them, we don't take any advice from the people who doesn't have any kind of religious freedom or human rights. What do you think his answer went so far?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I'm sorry. Why do you think his answer went so far?
Yeah.
Well, no. There's no people he should be taking advice from. Certainly not. This is the same problem as with the last question, that with the United States and France and the rest of Western Europe should not be imitating Saudi Arabia, that we should be calling upon them to open up their societies, the Islamic countries. And this is unfortunately not the way it's going. It's going the other direction, with the West becoming increasingly dependent intellectually and morally upon the Islamic world. It's not a good development.
We have also a strange and weird situation happening in Egypt over 2 months right now. Egypt has 85 million population, 25 Christians and 60 Muslim. So the majority are Muslims, and the minority Christians, Shiite, and Baha'i, something like that.
Yes.
What's happening right now on the field? Each Friday from the mosque, after Muslim prayer, they going out and they protest against the Orthodox Christian Church and against the Pope, and they saying a very, very unpolite expression, cursing. Did you hear ever in the human history that the majority do a rally or protested against the minority, except Egypt? Egypt ran away, and why? Why do you think they're doing that?
I never have heard anything like that in human history, and I think that they're doing it. It's a confession that they are a very insecure culture in religion, and they have to suppress any difference and any opposition because they're not sure of themselves, and they know that there are very weak foundations for their religion. So they have to have violent suppression of any dissent or disagreement, violent suppression of even the most mild forms of disagreement. And the very existence of the Christians in Egypt, they consider to be a rebuke to them. And so they have to lash out in this way, even though they're the overwhelming majority. It's a manifestation of insecurity.
Mr. Spencer, the last question on our show today. In your biography, it shows that you wrote, you and Miss Pamela Geller, to Obama administration about the war in America, or about the war against America. Could you please tell us what did you write and what is the answer from the White House?
Yes, we wrote about how Barack Obama is an internationalist. He doesn't have America's best interests primarily at heart. He's a socialist internationalist who wants to bring American law to submit to the precedents that come from international courts. And that this is something that is very bad news both for America and for the world. It bodes very ill for both America and the world because the United States, as the world's policeman, has been a foremost defender of justice and of truth in the world. And now if we're going to submit to international precedent, then the uniqueness of the United States will disappear, and one of the foremost bulwarks against the Islamic supremacist tyranny around the world will disappear.
Ladies and gentlemen, we thank the opportunity that Mr. Spencer gave it to you and to us to be with us in our show. Thank you again, Mr. Spencer. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And we always welcome you on our show. Good night.
Thank